What's up, guys? This is the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith. I'm joined by Ellie Hernandez. We are doing Showdown for the Saturday night game. Panthers visiting the Packers. Ellie, what's going on, man? This is the second game of the Saturday slate here. How are you, man? You excited?
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a little bit more fun than the first one. I'm excited for both of them. I just love Saturday football, and I got both my TVs set up in the living room, so I can watch UFC on one and then the football games on the other. So it's going to be a fun night for me.
Yeah, man, this is exciting. This is a good day for sports. We are coming to you. We're recording this pretty much right at lock for the first game, the Denver Broncos game. So yeah, if we are a little distracted by any of our players going off, forgive us on that one, but we're going to try to knock this out as quick as possible. We're coming to you only a few hours before lock, so we're going to premiere this on YouTube and everything so you guys can watch sort of in real time while you're building your lineups. Let's just get right into it, man. So, this is an interesting game here. Carolina's coming to Green Bay. Green Bay is the number one seed right now in the NFC. They have a lot to play for. They're competing with New Orleans for that number one seed in the bye. So this is a big game for Green Bay. I mean, if they lose, it's not the end of the world, but this is very important for them to get that bye. Carolina is, their season's pretty much done. They don't have a whole lot to play for, just kind of pride at this point, which is interesting. But if you look at the odds here, Green Bay's minus 406, 80% win probability. They have a 30-point implied total, and they're favored by 8 points. This game overall is a 52 over-under. If you look at Carolina's implied total, similar to what the Broncos were. So, not the lowest we've seen, but I think this can be a relatively high-scoring game. What are your thoughts just overall from a football aspect? What do you think this game is going to be like? Is it going to be just a straight-up blowout here by Green Bay?
I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be fairly close to about that 8-point spread throughout the whole game, though. I just don't know if Carolina is good enough to keep up with Green Bay. Green Bay looks really good this year, man. Their defense is playing well. They've got pretty much a two-headed monster running back set up in the backfield there, and so they stay pretty fresh on offense. And Davante Adams is having a historic year for touchdowns, and that's considering he was out a couple games. So I don't really think that trend breaks tonight. But don't get me wrong, Carolina is good, and I think them getting 22, 23, 24 points is definitely viable. And yeah, they don't have much to play for here, but Teddy Bridgewater, they want to see if that's going to be their guy for the next couple of years here. So yeah. I think they have a lot of momentum that they could build on. And if they can finish this season kind of strong, I mean, think about the difference when they get a healthy Curtis Samuel and the CMC playing a full season. Yeah. So, I think they're trying to get some momentum going. But I think this is going to be a fun one, man. I do think that Carolina is on the rise, and they're going to be a good team in the next year or two. And this is going to be a good test for them.
Carolina has a pretty good offense, and they're getting DJ Moore back. Curtis Samuel is questionable. We'll get into injuries in a second. But Davante Adams on the other side of the ball, I think it's easy to say that he's the number one, if not top three. It's debatable, but I personally think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's got a streak of 8 straight games right now. I think that's tied with an NFL record. I'm not exactly sure. It's up there. He's got 8 straight games with a touchdown. So you've got to, this guy is just unstoppable this year. And you don't have to get too fancy when it comes to playing him in the flex. I think, at captain, you're going to have to get really unique in the flex if you're playing Davante Adams in captain. So just consider that. But the chances of him being the highest scoring guy are pretty high. So that's something we'll get into here in a second. Let's look at the injury report here. Not a whole lot to talk about. Obviously, CMC is out. I don't think, there's no reason to rush him back this year. There's just no reason. Curtis Samuel is questionable with a hamstring injury. We'll have to wait and see where that comes out. So wait until, if he plays, I think he's a good option, as usual. If he doesn't play, that boosts up some of the other wide receivers on this team and potentially some other value play here. So keep an eye on Curtis Samuel. Wait till inactives are released, 90 minutes prior, and also just keep an eye on Twitter. There might be some beat writers out there that have a little bit more insight as to whether or not he's going to play. If he warms up or if he's in street clothes, I think this is a big deal when it comes to Curtis Samuel. On the Green Bay side, there's not really a lot to talk about. Jay Sternberger's out. Not a whole lot of injuries on that side of the ball, fantasy-wise. So that's a good thing. What jumps out to you here about Curtis Samuel? How are you handling this situation with his injury status?
It's going to be interesting because I think given his new price tag, the wide receivers, we'll get into it a little bit here, they're kind of balanced out from a pricing perspective. So I think ownership's going to be kind of off of him. I think people are going to want to try and go a little bit more DJ Moore if
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel's active. And so I think he makes for an interesting leverage play if he does end up playing. And given the injury, I think that's going to impact his ownership just in general. So I don't know. I'm going to be keeping pretty close attention to this myself because I feel like I'm going to have a pretty decent amount of exposure to him if he ends up playing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think his ownership will be a lot lower than it should be considering he's questionable. And if he's announced in, it's still scary to play a guy that's questionable up until, inactives are released. Because especially this year where you just don't know, you don't know if...
Especially a guy who gets hurt too. Like, with, Curtis Samuel has history of injury, right? He came out of the game last week, didn't he? I mean, so yeah. I get where people would be shy on this one.
So it's worth a tournament stab if he's announced in, because you don't know if he's going to be on snap count or not. We just don't know. So it's worth a tournament stab even at captain with him. I think if he's announced in, I think you can get a decent amount of Curtis Samuel. I played Curtis Samuel back in that game where he had those 3 touchdowns, something crazy like that. I had him at captain and won some good money. So I'm not expecting a similar situation here. I just know what his ceiling is, and it's very appealing to me, especially at that ownership. All right, so let's just get right into it, man. Let's move on to our breakdown. Break it down. So the pricing on quarterbacks for this particular game is really interesting to me. I know that you can't always compare it to other slates when it comes to pricing, because just the dynamics of the other players involved in the slate sort of makes, whatever their algorithm is for DraftKings for pricing, it makes things interesting though with this slate, because Aaron Rodgers is at 11.2K and Josh Allen was 12.8 or 12.4, something like that. I don't see Aaron Rodgers being a few thousand less than Josh Allen, but I know that it just depends on the slate for slate, because we have a lot of high-priced players in this game. So 11.2K for Aaron Rodgers is a really good price. Teddy Bridgewater at 9.4K is ridiculously low. Like 9.4K for Teddy Bridgewater is stupid low. What are your thoughts on the pricing here, man? Like how do we not just jam both these guys into the flex in every single lineup?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Aaron Rodgers is priced down for me. I would expect him to be closer to 12.4, regardless of who's on the slate, right? Just because he has so much potential. And Teddy Bridgewater at 9,400 just seems a little low. I think he should be closer to 9,800. I love both these guys. I'll have both of them in as many lineups as I possibly can. I'm gonna try my best to lock Rodgers. And I'm going to probably end up locking Teddy Bridgewater and just fucking see where I land from there. I mean, there's not much analysis you can say for Aaron Rodgers. He's going to score probably 2 touchdowns. He's going to throw for 250 yards, and he's going to light up the stat sheet. Teddy Bridgewater, he does have a little bit of rushing upside. And again, I expect them to be playing a little bit of behind or catch-up football in this game. So he's going to need to throw. He's going to need to make plays. So I think both guys are going to be necessary in tonight's builds.
I think Rodgers is a lock. I mean, I don't see any chance that he scores less than 20 to 25 fantasy points. If you just look at his history here, he's got 23 against Philly in a win. 23, his worst game was against Tampa Bay at 5 points in a loss, and that was a blowout. So you can't really consider that. I mean, they got their ass kicked. He just wasn't going to be getting the volume that he would in a game like that. So look, realistically saying, you'd have to guess that he's going to get around 25 fantasy points, and there's zero chance that Aaron Rodgers doesn't end up in the optimal lineup if he scores 25 fantasy points. You got Teddy Bridgewater. The way he's projected, he's only projected for 5 points less than Aaron Rodgers. And at that price point, the value is right around the same. So to me, if you're high on Aaron Rodgers, you just got to be high on Teddy Bridgewater to me, especially considering Bridgewater is about 10% less owned in the flex. You know, if this game goes the way, if this game is closer than, you know, a touchdown or two, let's just say it's a 10-point game going into the third or fourth quarter. To me, that means Teddy Bridgewater is going to have to have a relatively decent game, and he's going to have a couple of, you know, 1 or 2 touchdown passes at least. And if that's the case, I feel like Teddy Bridgewater is a really good option at that price tag. He's similarly priced to some of these wide receivers and some of these guys on the Green Bay side of things. So this is why the ownership feels like it's going to be a little bit more spread out, is just because you can't afford to get all the best players in. You're just going to have to make a decision here on one or two of these Green Bay guys that you're going to have to be under the field on. So how are you handling this? Are you just going to have them in all your lineups?
Yes, they're going to be in all my lineups.
Yeah, easy. Not a whole lot of analysis there. So let's move over to the running back side for Carolina. This is interesting. So, look, Mike Davis is a really good backup. Mike Davis is a solid player. I just don't know with this particular game script if I want a ton of Mike Davis at 9K. I'd rather just go with Teddy Bridgewater, and then to me, I would rather focus on the wide receiver side of things here for Carolina. You know, Mike Davis at 9K, he has the opportunity to definitely go off. I just don't know that I want to pay up that much for a guy, for a running back on a team that's an 8-point underdog. What do you think about that, man? Like, how are you handling Mike Davis? You got Rodney Smith at 1,200 and Alex Armah 200. I don't even want to really consider any of these backups here to me. It's either Mike Davis or bust for me when it comes to the running backs. And even that, I just not comfortable with a lot of Mike Davis today just because of the pricing.
Yeah, man. I agree with you on the backups. I don't want any of them. I'm okay with getting some exposure to Mike Davis. I do like him a little bit simply because he is absorbing that Christian McCaffrey role. He does have the potential to get 10 targets in a game, which I think he did in week 5. So he's going to be needed to get involved. If Curtis Samuel is out, I can see him getting a slight boost because you're gonna lose out on some of those gadget plays, some of those quick screens and things like that you're gonna want to run with Curtis Samuel. So I think you're gonna have to use Mike Davis a little bit more for those.
Yeah.
But yeah, given his price tag, I'm kind of gonna just have to see where I end up with him. I'll probably be even with the field, or slightly under, just because I am going to be prioritizing the past games on both sides again in this slate.
Yeah, I feel you, man. It just the pricing is a little difficult, like I said. So I think the ownership is just being spread out. To me, I'm just going to be a little bit under the field on Mike Davis. So let's move over to Green Bay side of things here. You've got Aaron Jones at 10.4K. I have no problem with Aaron Jones at that price. You're talking about a guy who always has the potential to be a slate breaker. And what I mean by that is if you don't have him in your lineup, you just literally cannot cash on certain slates. This is the kind of guy that will absolutely do that. The problem is with Aaron Jones at that price is it's going to be almost impossible to get Rodgers, Jones, and Devontae Adams in a lineup together. I mean, you can. You're going to have to really get creative with the value for the rest of your spots. So this is one of those situations is like Aaron Jones versus Devontae Adams, or you fade Teddy Bridgewater kind of a thing. So at 10.4K, he's a good option. Jamal Williams, 3.2K. He's one of my favorite backup running backs in the NFL. I love playing Jamal Williams, and I love playing Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams together, just capturing all of those backfield targets, all of those potential goal line rushes. I love playing them together, especially in a game where Green Bay's favored by 8. There could be a situation when they're up by 2 touchdowns in the third quarter and they start running the ball more. And Devontae Adams just gets game scripted out. We've seen this before. Devontae Adams had a touchdown. I don't remember what Green Bay slate it was. It was a showdown slate where Devontae Adams had a touchdown first drive, absolutely crushed it, and then he just wasn't needed the rest of the game. So what's your opinion on Jones and Williams here, and how do you be different when it comes to getting Devontae Adams over one of these guys?
Yeah, Devontae Adams is going to be one of the chalkiest players, if not the chalkiest player on the slate. So I think it's okay in a couple of lineups to fade him and go with Aaron Jones over him. Now, I really like Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in this game in stacks, just because Jamal Williams is 3,200, right? This is similar to the Philip Lindsay situation for me. I think he should be closer to 4,800 to 5,000 in any game, just because he has so much upside. Now, the thing about Aaron Jones is I love him. I'm going to have a decent amount of exposure to him. Just something to keep in mind that his ceiling on just overall snap count is going to be about 71%, right? That was
Yeah.
the maximum he's had in the season so far. And, for good reason. Jamal Williams isn't a bad backup, and he's going to get usage. And sometimes he'll outcarry and outtouch Aaron Jones. So,
Yeah.
honestly, I think you can handcuff them together and do pretty decent. And I just don't expect that to be a very chalky build today, considering everyone's going to be leaning on the passing attacks. Now, again, I think you can honestly fade Aaron Jones too and just use Jamal Williams as your kind of salary saver guy and go from there. So I don't think any of these guys are bad plays. I'm going to have both of them, and probably one of these guys will probably be in every single lineup I have, and I'll have several lineups with both of them in there.
Devontae Adams, I know we're talking about running backs here, but you just have to, they're paired because Aaron Jones, it's either Aaron Jones or Adams or Rodgers. It's tough to get all three of them in. So for me, you brought up a really good point. Aaron Jones is getting max 70% of the snaps. And that's fine, but he's not, when you're looking at Devontae Adams is getting 90 to 100% of the snaps, and he's the clear number one guy. So to me, I personally would rather move towards Devontae Adams in this game simply because he's going to get more volume and more opportunity. And you're looking at a guy, Devontae Adams, who scored a touchdown in 8 straight games. Aaron Jones doesn't have nearly the floor, in my opinion, that Devontae Adams has. So I would lean more towards Devontae fading Aaron Jones a little bit more. I mean, if you look at Aaron Jones, his fantasy box score here, it's not bad by any means at all. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is you see some peaks and valleys in his total, 9.5 fantasy points, then he got 26, then he has 10, 17. So he does have a relatively high floor, but if you're going to pay 10.4K for a running back, you're going to need, in a showdown slate, with this total, you're going to need 20 plus fantasy points or 75th percentile outcome. I just don't know. I don't know that I would bank on Aaron Jones reaching that outcome over Devontae Adams. That's just my opinion on things. So let's move over to wide receivers here for Green Bay. We're talking about Devontae Adams. He's 12.2K, so he is a lot more expensive than Aaron Jones for a reason. You got Allen Lazard at 5K, MVS at 5,400, and then Equanimeous St. Brown at 400. Those are probably the only guys I'm going to consider here in my player pool. So look, Devontae is the clear number one. Lazard, when Devontae was out for a few games, Lazard came in and played really well. I think Lazard is a great option as well at that price tag. MVS and Lazard are kind of around the same snap count. They're kind of getting the same amount of routes run. I think MVS has a slight advantage by a few percentage points of snaps. So what are your thoughts? Devontae Adams here, I don't think we really need to get into him too much. Just you try to get him in as many lineups as you possibly can. I don't know if you can play him in captain because of the dupes. I think he's going to be super high owned, and he's so expensive. Makes it difficult to play anybody else in the flex. But when it comes to Lazard versus MVS, how are you handling that?
So I was leaning more towards Lazard coming into this, but as ownership kind of projects and updates, it looks like MVS is coming in significantly lower owned than Lazard. So
really, are you seeing that I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are you seeing that on Roto Grinders, or where's that coming in at? Because to me, it's they're literally projected at the exact same ownership.
No, I'm showing MVS is about almost 15% lower than Lazard.
Holy shit!
That's on Roto Grinders.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's about 12 right now. My bad. But so I mean, even then, that's a significant leverage on some of the plays here, and we see that MVS has the upside. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to have a healthy exposure to Allen Lazard. His 5K price tag makes him easy to build with, And when he is healthy, he was at the beginning of the year and towards the end of last season, it looked like he was kind of emerging as the clear number 2 for Aaron Rodgers and this team.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers and the Packers very much have a similar relationship that the Ben Roethlisberger does with his wide receivers, right? They're known for their drops, excluding Devontae Adams, of course. And he gets frustrated with those guys, and MVS is one of those guys, and that's why Lazard was one of his favorite guys. So I think he's definitely in play here. I wouldn't have both Lazard and MVS in the same lineup, so I think you're just going to have to choose which guy you want to get to. And honestly, that $400 savings is kind of significant on this particular slate because I want to pay up for some of these guys. Devontae Adams, I'm not going to really talk about. If you can pay for him, pay for him.
Yeah, exactly. I think
do it.
It's a guy that I prefer getting Adams over Aaron Jones, obviously. We talked about that, so try to prioritize that. When it comes to Lazard versus MVS, to me, whoever comes in lower owned, if it's close, I'd rather go with Lazard. But if MVS is like way lower owned, like you're projecting them to be from your site, I think MVS is a better option here. So just keep an eye on ownership as we get closer to things. It's going to shift, obviously, as we get closer when inactives come out or whatever. But to me, I'm just going to go with the lower owned guy if I can fit any of these guys in. And we'll figure out when we do our lineup build how hard it is going to be to get a $5,000 player in here. This looks like this might be a stars and scrubs sort of a roster construction here. So let's move over to the other side of the ball. Carolina, I actually really, really like the pricing here. I really like getting, two of these guys potentially in your lineup together, along with Teddy Bridgewater. You got Robbie Anderson at 8,200. DJ Moore is back. DJ Moore is the number 1 wide receiver on this team, and he's at 7,600. He has home run ability along with Robbie Anderson. These guys both together, doing a traditional like main slate stack that you would do. Teddy 2 gloves with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore in a lineup together. That's really dangerous to me in a good way. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of room for that when it comes to ownership. I mean, the ownership on these guys is under 30% on all of them now. To me, what are you seeing ownership go on your site?
1 second here. No, they're all about 40. Curtis Samuel is going to be the lowest owned guy that they're showing.
That's strange.
On this side.
That's interesting. Yeah, so so RotoGrinders is way different than Awesemo projections as of now, but I'm sure we'll figure that out, as we get closer. But to me, if they're lower than if Robbie Anderson's in the 35 or less, it's a great fucking play. He's just expensive, so it's hard to fit him in with the other high owned play. So how are you handling Anderson versus Moore? Are you going to try to get both of these guys in your lineup, or do you have to pick one or the other?
No, man, I don't think you have to pick one or the other. My captain play, one of my captain plays is going to give me a little bit of flexibility to really kind of jam some of these guys in there.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to fade Mike Davis or Aaron Jones to do that. But
yeah,
I think I think you can get both of these guys. Again, I expect Carolina to be playing catch-up ball tonight. And both Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore have so much big play upside. And Robbie Anderson, he's getting targets. Now, the only thing that I will say is if Robbie Anderson starts to get a little bit more chalky, then I think you can pivot down to DJ Moore. Now, in all honesty, I think Curtis Samuel is probably one of my favorite plays if he ends up playing. Just because, honestly, this is just because you touting him all season long, right? You start watching him a little bit closer, and his involvement on these gadget plays and these quick screens, and just he's a playmaker, man. They're trying to get him out in the field to make game-breaking type plays. So if he's out there, that's the kind of stuff that I expect. Keep an eye on Jared Alexander, right? We want to find out where he's going to be covering. Are we going to have these receivers playing traditional ones? I mean, if he's going to be out, if Robbie Anderson's going to be out on the flank and he's got Jared Alexander covering him all night, I think you're fine going DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel as your stack and fade Robbie Anderson. So I think you kind of have to get these receivers right. One of these guys is probably going to have a pretty decent night, and there's a good chance that the other will too if this game stays somewhat close because the total's high enough. So I think 3-3 stacks is probably going to be the way to go tonight. And getting 2 of these wide receivers is going to be contrarian enough because everybody's going to be all up on Mike Davis's dick.
Yeah, totally. If you get 2 wide receivers from this team along with Teddy Bridgewater, I think that's just the way to go. My confidence level in at least one of these guys going off is very high, and 2 guys going off getting there is also pretty high to me, just because they're so fucking good, and there's enough offense to go around when it comes to the Panthers, especially if they're going to be losing this game, and there's going to be garbage time opportunity later on in the game in the fourth quarter. All right, so let's move over to the tight end side of the ball for Carolina. Not a whole lot to talk about. This is a position I'm going to be fading for Carolina. I would rather just go with the wide receivers. I think fading the running backs and the tight ends is the smart option here. Look, $800 for Ian Thomas, $200 for Chris Manhertz. There's always an opportunity for a random garbage touchdown reception from one of these guys. And at 800 and 200 respectively, I think you have to consider them. I just personally would rather spend the money in other places. They're hovering below 10%, so it's a large field GPP dart throw. Playing one of these guys, don't put them in your obviously your single entries or your cash games. What do you think about this? Is there anything even to talk about when it comes to these guys?
Yeah, I do want to comment. $800 on Ian Thomas isn't awful. I will have a little bit of exposure just because it gives you a lot of flexibility. So I wouldn't completely ignore that, but I wouldn't touch any of the other guys.
I mean, Ian Thomas pretty much will get a target or 2 a game. He has a ceiling of like 5 targets. He has 1 touchdown this year. So look, you're looking at probably 10 fantasy points as a ceiling. Obviously, if you get an $800 player with 10 fantasy points, that is going to be really important, especially considering the pricing. I just don't like getting more than 2 or 3 lineups with these guys in it. I'm not going to go too heavy. I'll just stay with the field just to kind of keep me even with that. So let's move over to the other side of the ball for Green Bay. You got Robert Tonyan here at 6,400. Always a good option, in my opinion. I love Robert Tonyan, even as a captain option here. You're talking about a guy who's hovering around 20% in the flex. And to me, he's going to be 3% or less owned in the captain. And that's really appealing to me in a game like this where Robert Tonyan we've seen him break out. We've seen him have a great game. At 6,400, you can really fit a lot of guys in. And be unique. You don't have to worry about being unique in the flex if you have Robert Tonyan in captain. Even if you don't want to go that route, I think trying to fit him in the flex is a really good idea. You're talking about a guy who has 4 straight games here with a touchdown. That's pretty interesting to me. I didn't even realize that. He's got 7, 8, 9. He's got 9 touchdowns this year. And at 6,400, that's just, man, I might actually try to lock this guy into most of my lineups because I feel like if you get a touchdown and 80 yards and 5 receptions out of him, he can be in the optimal. And he's not going to be very popular because he's in that middle range of pricing where it's kind of hard to figure out where you want to go. So, tell me about Robert Tonyan. And then Mercedes Lewis is 1,400. I don't think he always has a chance to catch a touchdown, but I just don't think you need to get to him more than 1 lineup.
Yeah, I love Robert Tonyan. Given his price tag, I think he makes for a very interesting captain play as well. I think tonight's an interesting slate for jamming in some of these cheap and middle-priced captains. This game could be out of hand enough that Aaron Rodgers doesn't necessarily need to come out and chuck it up. But,
yeah.
I still think Robert Tonyan has the ability to get there at 6,800. So I'm going to have a pretty healthy exposure to him. And I'm actually, just practice building a couple lineups here. And he fits in pretty nicely at the captain spot. So
yeah,
I like him a lot. And that kind of surprised me with the amount of touchdowns there.
I know.
I did not know that. But I mean, on the season, he's averaging 13% of the target share nearly, right? And that's just behind MVS and then obviously Aaron Jones, Lazard, and Adams. So
yeah,
you're 5th on the team. You're probably going to get a decent amount. And then last week he had 16% of the target share against Detroit, and I wouldn't expect him to really need to get that kind of involvement, but I like him, man. I think he's a great play tonight.
Yeah, me too. Now that we're actually really breaking it down, we've always liked Tonyan a lot, but now that we're really seeing the raw numbers from him, He's scored a touchdown. What did I say, in 4 straight games? That's insane. I think that's going to slip under the radar considering Devontae Adams has 8 straight games with a touchdown. I really love Tanyan tonight at that price tag, and I think we should build a captain lineup with him as well. All right, so let's move over to kickers and defense. You got Joey Sly for Carolina at 3,800, Mason Crosby at 4K, Packers defense at 4,600, Panthers defense at 2,400. How are you handling this? I mean, me personally, I'm just going to try to avoid both of these positions because I think there's a lot of other areas that we can excel in when it comes to wide receivers and running backs. Like you said, Jamal Williams is 3,200, cheaper than the kickers and cheaper than Packers defense. I just would rather go with him.
Yeah, that's my take. That you can just like cut out that sound bite and replay it because that's it. I mean, it doesn't make sense to not get him. He's going to get 10 rush attempts, and that's kind of like his average. He's going to get 10 rush attempts, and he's probably going to get 3 targets.
Yeah.
If they're up at any point in this game by more than 10 points, then I expect him to get 15 carries and 5 targets.
If you're game scripting this game to get out of hand, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and Packers defense is an interesting little mini stack there. I think that's kind of a good option if you expect this to be a blowout. I personally think this game is going to be a little bit closer. I think Packers are going to win handily, but I don't think the Panthers are going to score any less than 21 points. So at that point, if for Packers defense you need 5-6 sacks and an interception for a touchdown in order to get there at that price for the defense. So just consider that. Just because the Packers are favored by a lot and the Panthers aren't necessarily the best offense in the world doesn't mean that just by the Packers defense only giving up 2 touchdowns is going to get you there. You need a turnover. You need an interception for a touchdown. All right, let's move over to our fade of the night here.
What's your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
All right, Ellie, MVS is your fade of the night. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I just think that people are riding on him just because of recent performance. Again, as we spoke about earlier, if Allen Lazard is really projected to be that much higher owned than MVS, then I'll probably switch him out for Allen Lazard. But right now, I mean, I'll kind of tend towards Asamoah's projections and lean towards the cheaper Lazard over MVS. I again think that he's going to come in at a fairly decent amount, probably closer to 40%, just because of his recent success. But I think this offense is built around Devontae Adams, and Allen Lazard is coming out as the true number 2, and he has that relationship with Aaron Rodgers. So he's a deeper sleeper or deeper GPP play for me. But other than that, I don't think I'm going to get too much exposure.
So for me, Mike Davis it's a risky fade. Obviously, he's one of the focal points of this offense, and he gets receptions out of the backfield. He has opportunity for touchdowns in the red zone. But to me, if he's hovering, even 5% less ownership than Aaron Jones at that price tag, I'd rather move on to somebody else at $9,000. I'd rather double up on the wide receivers and stick with Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is only a couple $100 more than Mike Davis. I'd rather get Teddy Bridgewater in this game. The Packers defense is not bad, but I think they can move the ball on this team in the air. So Mike Davis just might get game scripted out. And if if Mike Davis only scores, if he gets 40, 50 yards rushing and a touchdown, yes, he might make his way into the optimal, but at 9,000, I don't know that he can make it there. He needs to have a really good game. He needs to have multiple touchdowns. If anything, I would consider Mike Davis in the captain because I'm banking on a ceiling game from him. I just think that in the flex, I just don't think you need him, in my opinion. So that's my rationalization behind that. Obviously, don't just blindly just uncheck these guys from your lineups. We've explained why we don't want Mike Davis or MVS. Because to us, there's just better options. But if you like Mike Davis in this game, feel free. Trust me, feel free. It's not a bad play at all. We're just using leverage and pricing to figure out what we like today. All right, so let's move over to Crown Their Ass segment, our favorite captain on DraftKings.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
So Ellie, tell me about your pick here with Jamal Williams. I really like it.
Yeah, I like yours too. So again, we're pretty concentrated between these two guys, and then what's probably going to end up being Robert Tanyan. They just give you so much flexibility at their pricing to jam in a lot of these players that I want. And Jamal Williams being at 3,200, I mean, you're spending 4,800 on him at the captain, and you can pretty much just do whatever you want with the higher price guys. So you're still going to probably have to choose between Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, but that's fine. That's fine, right? Because you're going to have Aaron Rodgers. You're going to have Teddy Bridgewater. You're going to get one of the Panthers wide receivers, and you're going to get one of the other studs on the offensive side of the ball for the Packers. Yeah. So I don't want to have to punt too much on this slate, and I think he gives me the best opportunity. And again, if this does get slightly out of hand, if this is more than a 10-point spread at any point in time, Jamal Williams gets a significant boost in his usage. And that's kind of what I'm looking for here.
And look, Jamal Williams, with his ownership and captain, you're going to be unique. And the most important thing is just the salary. It allows you to go out and get all the best players in the flex. So to me, if Jamal Williams, if the game works out where not one player just absolutely crushes, if Devontae Adams has a touchdown, Aaron Jones has a touchdown, DJ Moore has a touchdown, whoever the guys that you want to get in the flex, along with Jamal Williams and the captain, if scoring is spread out amongst multiple players, that's your path to being the optimal captain, because your lineup, your roster construction is going to be so unique. You're going to be one of the only ways to get all those players into the flex. So think about that. Jamal Williams doesn't have to go off for 3 touchdowns in this game for him to be the optimal captain, simply because of his pricing allows you to get the rest of the guys into the flex. So for me, DJ Moore, at his price, I really like his price. He's the number 1 wide receiver on this team. He has very high ceiling, 2 or 3 touchdown potential, and I think you have to consider him being, I think he'll possibly be, what do you think, 5% in the captain, maybe 7%, and at that pricing, I think you can throw Jamal Williams in the flex and get a lot of the rest of your favorite players in the flex along with him. So that's just my reasoning behind DJ Moore. And considering the fact that he was out last week, maybe people have kind of forgot about him. They would rather go with Robbie Anderson because of his air yards and his upside. So to me, that's where I'm leaning. But as we talk more about it, Robert Tanyan should be on this list too. If we could jam him in between both these guys as a sort of a mutual agreement. So let's just get right into this lineup build, dude. So let's build with Jamal Williams and see how this actually works out. And see, let's just fill out the roster construction here with all these guys at captain. So let's put Jamal Williams in. He's at the bottom of the list. Let me see if I can find him. He ends up being 4,800 at captain, which leaves you 9,000 in the average for all the rest of these guys. I mean, that's amazing. That makes me feel really good just to start out with. So let's just put Rodgers and Teddy Bridgewater in here, and you still have 8,200 remaining. So
let's put in DJ Moore.
So let's put in DJ Moore. I love that. And can we go with Curtis Samuel here?
I think so. Let's do it.
Here, before we do that, let's prioritize. We got to get Devontae Adams in here, or Aaron Jones. So who would you, with this game script? Who would we have his backup in the captain? It's kind of a little bit of a pivot. I'm not opposed to putting Aaron Jones in the flex, but to me, Aaron Jones in this particular game script might be worked out of it with Jamal Williams in the captain. They're negatively correlated, which we're okay with, but in this particular build, I think we should probably go with Devontae. Don't you think?
Yeah, I like Devontae Adams in this build.
So that leaves us with 4,800, and potentially, we can go Green Bay or Carolina here, but who do we have at 4,800 or less? I think it's kind of a weird little middle ground here. If we put with DJ Moore, we might have to switch out DJ Moore here, in my opinion, because look, we have 4,800 remaining, and we can go Packers defense, we can go Mason Crosby, Joey Sly, and that's kind of it. And then you're leaving like $2 or $3 on the table, and I don't think we need to do that with Jamal Williams' ownership. So should we move DJ Moore out here and try to find another guy?
Yeah, let's see. What happens if we drop down to Tanyan?
Let's see, 6,400. So that leaves us with 6K. So that means we can get an MVS, we can get a Lazard. This is turning into a 5-1, which I don't want to do.
This is an onslaught. So let's drop off Robert Tonyan and let's see what Curtis Samuel gives us. I don't know if we're dropping down a salary to get up to one of these other guys.
So 5,400, that actually gives us MVS.
And Alan Lazard. So I think
exactly. So in this case, I'm going to go with Lazard, leave a little bit on the table because, I want to leave a little bit of table. I don't want to max out the salary always, but I don't think you'll be heavily duped with Jamal Williams and the captain. So look, you got MVS as well, or you can go with Lazard. They're projecting right around the same. I think they're both good options. I think if you're doing multiple lineups, submit both of those. And Curtis Samuel's ownership is going to be super low. Not that it really matters with Jamal Williams and the captain, but I kind of like this lineup for sure. This is what is this, a 4-2? That's not bad.
Yeah, I like that lineup too.
All right, so it's not the easiest to build with Jamal Williams. I mean, it is very easy. We get a lot of flexibility, but there's not that just like, ooh, that was super easy for us. So let's try Tanyan now. All right, so where's Tanyan here? He's at 9.6K. So this is, he's obviously a lot more expensive. So I think you got to go Aaron Rodgers. You got to go Teddy Bridgewater to me. Now, do we want to get Aaron Jones in this lineup? Or do you want to go with Jamal Williams?
Let's try Aaron Jones. Let's see where we can go with that.
So that leaves us 4,700. We've got 3 Packers. I want to get some more Carolina in this game or in this lineup. Can we go with DJ Moore? Will that give us that's going to leave us with 1,800. Is there anybody that low that we would feel comfortable with? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you got Ian Thomas, which is a pure punt. So, that's an option, like you said. This is a straight-up punt, though. This is large field GPP status here. Get rid of Aaron Jones. I mean...
Yeah, what if we throw in...
What about this? What about a situation where Aaron Rodgers just doesn't need to be in the optimal line? He just doesn't need to be there. Like, what if let's try this. Let's try Adams and Aaron Jones. That still leaves us with less salary, actually. But you're actually right there with Ian Thomas. Like, literally, that fits in perfectly. So that is an interesting option. Did somebody die?
There's a fucking fire truck outside my house and an ambulance.
Oh shit! Is everybody in your house okay? All right, so...
Oh, shit. What the fuck is going on? Bro, there's a fire truck, 2 ambulance, and 2 goddamn police SUVs.
Damn, dude. All right. So I just don't know where to go with Tanyan here. Help me out here. What do you think? Is this a situation where we can get Aaron Jones and Rodgers and fade? Or do we go with Jamal Williams because we need the salary?
How about this? Run Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, and then see what that gives us, so we can run it back with another Panther. 9,800.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's a great fucking. There we go, dude. So Robbie Anderson. That leaves some.
Robbie Anderson, Mike Davis, DJ Moore.
Anybody you want.
Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, anybody you want.
I mean, look, you don't need to get crazy with this particular lineup because, first of all, Jamal Williams is going to be 20 to 30% out, right? Yeah. And then Robert Tonyan is not going to be more than 6% in the captain. And fading Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and those 2, you're fucking fine. Dude, so you have so much flexibility.
This would be so perfect. And look, here's where you can go with this. You can go Aaron Jones. If you wanted to get Devontae Adams in here, you could go from Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore down, or you can go from DJ Moore down to Curtis Samuel and then get Devontae Adams. You know what I'm saying? So you can get Devontae Adams instead of Aaron Jones if you go down to Curtis Samuel from DJ Moore. So you got Teddy Two Gloves, Curtis Samuel, and Robbie Anderson. And then you've got Tonyan, Adams, Jamal Williams. Or you can go with Tonyan, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I like Tonyan as at the captain here. I actually really like him here. I actually might end up shifting most of my builds to Tonyan here, I think. So really quick, let's build with DJ Moore. We don't need to get too into it. Let's just feel it out and see if there's a little bit more, if things plug in a little bit easier here. So DJ Moore is at 11.4K. He's got much higher upside than Tonyan, in my opinion. So look, do we go Aaron Rodgers, Teddy Two Gloves here? Do we fade Teddy? Like, what do you think? How do we approach this?
No, I think you got to leave Teddy Bridgewater in, man. I just don't think DJ Moore is going to be that owned a captain, but I still like jamming in Jamal Williams and probably Curtis Samuel and seeing where we can go from there, man.
Let's see.
I love Curtis Samuel.
I put Devontae Adams in. So if we put Jamal Williams in, that leaves us with 2,600 remaining. And we've got a reverse 2-4 going here potentially, but that leaves us with 2,600. Where can we go at 2,600? Panthers defense don't want to do that. Yeah, it's a heavy drop off there.
I don't mind Mercedes Lewis in this particular lineup just as an offshoot punt that he can get a touchdown, a couple receptions. Yeah. So that might be decent in this lineup. But again, I think you're reaching a little bit more than you need to on a slate that you're probably not going to have to.
So let's try this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's try Aaron Jones here and see if that helps us out instead of Devontae. And we capture all the running game. This is a little bit of a different game script, but now we're at 4,400, and we can get one of the kickers. So maybe that's a little bit safer of a play. If you put Joey Sly in here, this is a 3-3. A little bit safer of a play here, in my opinion, than the other one. So just keep an eye on that. I don't know. What do you think about this lineup?
One real quick. Instead of Williams, put in Ian Thomas. I want to see something.
Okay. So Ian Thomas at 800. That leaves us with 6,800. Oh man, we were so close to Curtis Samuel there.
But still, got Robert Tonyan, MBS, and Lazard.
Oh yeah, this is nice, dude. Ian Thomas is our only punt here, pretty much.
And that's not a bad punt at $800, right? Two catches and 20 yards. Fuck it.
Well, let's see what this does. If we want to switch Aaron Jones out also and put in Devontae, that leaves us with 5K, and we can get fucking Lazard.
Yeah,
dude, that's a great lineup, dude. DJ Moore at captain is nice. You just have to punt with one position, and that's it. That's pretty nice, man.
Yeah, I like that lineup. That's a good build.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining us here. We're going to cut this a little bit shorter than we usually do, simply because we want to get this uploaded, and we want you guys to watch this before you start building. So we appreciate the support, guys. We're going to see you for Sunday Night Football. But as of now, Ellie, give us a little outro. Like, how do you think you're going to end up with your 3-3s, your 4-2s, and who's going to be your most exposed captain now that we actually built a few lineups together?
I think my most exposed captain is probably going to end up being Robert Tonyan or DJ Moore. I'll have a decent amount of Jamal Williams, but I think 3-3 is the way to go tonight. I don't think most people are going to go balanced. I think they're going to go 4-2, expecting a blowout. So I think you're going to have some unique opportunity to get different without trying too hard.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys for Sunday Night Football. Good luck today on your Saturday lineups. We'll see you later.